Let's jump to the story from Fox News. Harvard Medical School offers course about healthcare for LGBTQIA plus infants.
Ooh,
the course promises to focus on serving gender and sexual minority people across the lifespan. What does that mean, an LGBTQIA infant? Prepubescent human beings who haven't formed the ability to speak have already formed sexual identity? Is that what they're saying?
I think that's what they're trying to say. Yes. I mean, and this is coming from Harvard. This story, we were made aware of this story today and we did a video on it. One of our members did a video on it. And it's I don't have the proper words to describe it. You know, it's like, there is no red line.
How can they claim that infants are LGBTQIA, but then also claim it's social conditioning?
Right. Yeah. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
This argument is that it's inherent within all people. So pick one. Which is it? Right.
I mean, how? Okay. So my thing is children. That includes infants and babies. They cannot. They don't understand what sexuality is. You know, they don't have these feelings. So they cannot be any sexuality. Like they're just not developmentally there yet. And the fact that babies are even being thrown into this, I mean, it's almost like a mockery. I mean, they just keep making things worse and throwing more and more at the wall, and just I think it's to shame everybody, just a humiliation ritual basically of like, this is what our country is turning into.
It's also for profit.
Well, of course. Oh no, that is the main thing behind it all. I mean, the big pharma and all these hospitals with their gender clinics, they just see these walking dollar signs. I mean, like to get a child hooked up into this system, and get on these, hormones and puberty blockers, and then eventually the surgeries and what else, the maintenance that requires is a lifetime. I mean, they are lifetime patients. And so when they get them young, I mean, these are $1 million each, maybe more than $1 million each throughout their lifetime. Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing thing till the day they die. They're going to be needing these things to maintain it. Mm-hmm. So I think that is like the number one motivator behind this entire movement. But yeah, it's
talk about loyal customers.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to keep buying the pills. Exactly. You have to keep doing the procedures, and there's a lot of complications with them. I believe there's a monetary incentive, but I also think there's a larger kind of deeper incentive when it comes to breaking down the family unit. And I think there's even potentially even bigger agenda when it comes to a transhumanist agenda, which of course is also going to be very important with the fourth industrial revolution that the World Economic Forum is pushing, where they want to have people that are non-binary, non-identified with their actual sex, and are just cyborgs of the machine.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I don't think that, pharma is the only motivator here, but I think it's a big one. But yeah, there's a bunch. There's others. But Tim, I see you holding a interesting book. I haven't read it. I've seen enough.
You need to read it.
I've seen pictures and
nope.
I haven't seen enough. Okay, well, I've seen enough to know that it belongs nowhere near children. And these people, these activists, these radical activists that have hijacked our movement, and people that use our community, to push all this stuff. They're up in arms over book banning. They call it book banning. And it's like, it's pornography in kids' schools and libraries. Like, pornography for kids should be banned. Like, I'm sorry. What they always
it's
try
kink education.
Oh, got it.
Well, it's like a lot of people on the right are calling it porn. And I'm like, well, some of it, yeah, but I think it's more kink education, which is worse. It's one thing for like an adult to be like, I am aroused and enjoy watching this. It's another thing if you have like a curriculum where it's like, here's how to use an insertion device.
Right.
Like
when I say pornography, like I don't mean, like it's literal pornography, but right. The writing, it's suggesting, I mean, it's sexual activities. It's in great detail and exploring that, encouraging, young children to explore that within themselves.
The reason I ask if you read it is because we talked about this quite a bit the other day. The book is actually very little about the weird sexually explicit stuff and overtly about how her parents were extremely abusive towards her. Mm. And she couldn't read till she was 12. She would pee in the yard. She smelled so bad the counselor had to pull her out of class and tell her, like, people are complaining about your stench. And she was wearing menstrual pads that were so old, they were crusted with blood that was flaking off into her pants. It's no wonder she doesn't want to be a woman.
Oh, right.
It's not an issue of like, I feel a different way. It's that her parents were extremely abusive towards her. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about like LGBTQIA kids, no, I think they're totally wrong about this. We were talking to the Hodge twins, and they were saying that they thought that a lot of this stuff is learned. And I said, I don't think so. And they said, well, if it's not learned, then how could you groom a kid? And I was like, you can abuse and traumatize a kid into doing all sorts of crazy things. You can get someone to smoke cigarettes. Smoking cigarettes isn't good for you, right? You can get people to do things. But what I was saying is, like, if you take like humans free of anything else and have them run around, once they grow up, they will figure out how to procreate. If you traumatize and abuse them, you will cause fear, panic, and you know, problems in their future. So they're talking about LGBTQIA kids. That's why I'm telling everybody to at least, you know, figure out how to look at the beginning of this book, because what's really showing is how these people get traumatized and beaten into being terrified of who they are and hating who they are.
I understand that.
Like the thing in question in this book where she's like is getting the pleasure, you know, the adult act.
Yeah.
She says she hates it. And in the end says she doesn't want to do any of this and is asexual and doesn't want to be involved. And it's like, yeah, just absolute trauma and abuse. And so what's happening is these people who are traumatized want to share that trauma with the next generation and push it onto them.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think that the people that are traumatized, they do want to do that. I think there's much more behind it though too. I mean, this book is one of many, right? That are just, you know, that cover this topic and other inappropriate topics. But and in terms of grooming kids, I mean, you can. I believe that you are born gay. Like I believe that you can be born gay, and like nothing happened to me as a kid. Nothing. I know so many gay people. They had great childhoods. Nothing. You know, a lot of people say like, oh, you were traumatized or abused or whatever. Like a myriad of different possibilities.
Well, to clarify, I'm referring to someone who says I am not a woman and I don't want to be romantic with anybody. It's like, that feeling right there is because her parents were abusing her.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, I know. I'm getting there. I'm saying, but you were saying like that. What did you say exactly? You were saying that like kids can't be. None of this stuff can be learned, or. I'm
referring to like the non-binary gender stuff.
Yeah,
we're talking about like LGBTQIA plus infants or whatever. I'm saying that I agree with you. Like I think people. Like I think some people are just gay. Some people, like, you know.
But as far as like the non-binary, and when we're getting into like gender ideology and gender identity, I mean, I think that can very, very strongly be manufactured and implanted in kids' heads, and like even be seen as trendy now, which it is. You know, like I have my fiance's sister. She's in her teens and. She goes to school, obviously, and like she was telling us how like it's not even okay. It's not even, you're not cool enough if you're just gay anymore, you know? So these kids are this is just being, this culture being put into these schools and just into society, you know, through media and everything that it's very trendy. And I think that gender identity is definitely something that can be manufactured, and to lead these kids into believing that they were born in the wrong body because they don't fit perfectly into like a little binary stereotype box, you know.
Well, that's exactly it. Like this book really outlines that. And I think if people are trying to understand what's causing people to experience this, look at what happens. You get a little girl, her parents let her run around wild in the yard, peeing in the yard. There's like no supervision. They don't even, like, she couldn't read till she was 12. That's a big one right there.
Yeah.
That's a huge indicator of abuse.
Oh, yeah.
But she draws a picture of a menstrual pad crusted with black blood. It's in the first portion of the book, and she's like, I would wear these for days with the blood flaking off like coffee grounds. And it's just like, this person isn't non-binary.
Right.
They had a mother who didn't tell her how to live and how to be hygienic, how to clean her body, and how to socialize. So when she was rejected by society for being and I mean this without, like, I'm not trying to be mean, but filthy, literally, and unhygienic and smelling like feces, she rejects it and says, it's an issue of being a woman. No, that's not being a woman.
Right.
Being a woman isn't smelling bad and being made fun of and insulted, but she associates those things because she's like, you really read it and it's like she lives in the wilderness basically. And then when she tries socializing with normal kids, she can't read and communicate properly or socialize.
I've heard of other stories about that, like where these children are so abused and neglected. Like, I forget the name, but you know, she was locked in a basement for like the first 12 years of her life, didn't know how to talk at all, like knew nothing. And obviously, you know, that's a rare case. I mean, maybe not so rare, I don't know. But like that case in terms of becoming gender queer or non-binary or whatever, I don't know. I mean, that's one reaction to this kind of abuse. But the fact that but you know, there's a saying that's like hurt people, right? So like now this person is writing her story, and that's fine. Share your story, but it's one thing to write it and get it out there and share it with the world, and then another to want it in kids' hands.
Right.
You know, like even that topic of just abuse, like I truthfully, I didn't know that was all in that book. Like, you know, I've seen bits of it online, but I've never.
Well, then with all that abuse, she writes about how she goes to the Queer Straight Alliance and they're all cheering for her and saying how much they love her.
Yeah.
So imagine you smell like crap. You've got dried blood in your pants for days. Your counselor is telling you like you smell like crap, something's wrong with you. You've got hairy legs the girls are making fun of. And you can't read and you're peeing in the floor. And then someone comes and says, I affirm you, you're okay, and I love you. All of a sudden you feel good and you say, please, I will do anything. Give me more of this feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Sad, man.
That's that cycle of abuse.
It is sad. That is very sad.
The abuse that the person takes on, they start to rationalize as normal and okay. And it wasn't the abuse that was the problem. It was the gender or whatever. And then when they get older and they're around kids, they're like, you know what? That abuse that I experienced, it is okay. So if I do it to you, there's nothing wrong with that. And then that cycle, you know, you got to accept, like, it wasn't okay what your mom did to you, Maya. That wasn't okay. You should have had clean pants, man. They should have been there for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a important issue. People who are abused sometimes come out as abusers themselves, or they go the other direction and they become advocates against the abuse. And it could go either one of those two ways, depending on the human being, depending how they're raised. But I just kind of wanted to ask you, since you're kind of looking into this. A lot of this is in our schools, in our entertainment, in our social media. I mean, this is going to have a lot of long-term effects, not only on the family unit, but of course on everyone being dependent on big pharma, everyone's emotions and hormones being all dysregulated. What do you see here as the end game? How would you even quantify it? This is the question. Why is this happening?
Yeah, that's a big question. Well, like I touched on before, I truly think big pharma is one of the main two motivators. Well, maybe there are more than two, but big pharma, the profits, obviously, getting them hooked up to that system. I also think pedophilia is a huge motivator behind it because, I mean, it's not just about the transitioning of children medically. You know, it's like the whole thing. It's the sexualization, the introducing them to sexual content and material and events with the drag stuff. Having them now dance on stage for dollar bills. All of this, I think, is definitely rooted in the normalization of pedophilia. I think that has been happening for a long time. That's been the goal for a long time. And back when we were fighting for just the right to get married, and people would warn of the slippery slope, like, well, what's going to come next? Pedophilia is next. And I genuinely thought these people were insane because all I wanted was the right to marry. And I was happy to pack it up and go home after that. I think we all should have gone home after that. Like, I don't know why these events are still taking place when we have all of our rights. Like, we won the game, go home. And now, so back then I thought those people were absolutely insane that were warning of the slippery slope, but now we're here and I'm like, well, they were right. Turns out they were right. And the push has always been to normalize pedophilia and I think the end game here is to get a P attached to our acronym, our ever-growing acronym.
There's a few P's already.
Is there?
Yeah, PAN.
Oh, well,
Right.
it's not in the official acronym, but yeah. Like
Who makes the official acronym?
I don't know. I don't abide by it. None of us do. We don't like that. But
Who makes the flag for that matter,
it's a good question.
Like I was in downtown Frederick and I saw it was the pride flag with the black and brown on it and the trans
so ugly.
and an eagle.
An eagle.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the eagle one. I've seen the one with the circle, the yellow circle with like a purple circle in it or something. I don't know what that means. I don't know what any of this means. And then another one just came out recently with like, do you remember like the red umbrella?
Yeah, the puckered anus.
What is that?
It's a symbol of sex work. They call it an umbrella, but you know what it is.
It's a booty hole.
Yeah, it's a booty hole.
Perfect.
I've always been really LGB is like its own to me.
Yeah.
Someone's gay, they're bi, they're lesbian, whatever. Lesbian's a kind of gay, so it's almost like redundant. But like, what's the difference? Just like it's a label. You say your name. Is it the way you want? Is it what you want? Like, what makes you gay in your opinion? Wanting it or the act and not wanting it at all, but having the act happen?
Being gay is I'm romantically attracted to women. I am physically attracted to women. I only want to be with women. I can appreciate if a man is handsome or not, but I feel nothing towards them. So being gay isn't an act for me. It's a feeling. I mean, it's who I am. Like, you know, it's part of me. But at the same time, I cannot stand people that make being gay or whatever they are, trans, their entire identity. You know, I look at being gay, me being gay is like the same as I have dark hair. I'm also gay. You know, I also like wearing Adidas jackets. I don't know. It's just something about me. You know, it's part of me. But it's not all of me. It's not all of who I am.
Yeah. Do you find that scale, the Kinsey scale? I was told my buddy in college was a gay dude. He was like, oh yeah, everyone's on the Kinsey scale. Now I'm finding out Alfred Kinsey was like a psychopath kind of.
You know, it's funny.
He's trying to sexualize people.
I went to Indiana University. So like I took a lot of psychology classes, and I was in the Kinsey building a lot, the Kinsey Institute of whatever psychology. And now they, just recently they put up a statue of him right outside. Wow. And so, you know, Gays Against Rumors, we want to have a protest down there actually to get that statue removed because he's sick. I mean, he experimented sexually on babies. I think like as young as 2. Yeah. To come up with the Kinsey scale. You know, I watched that. You ever see the movie Kinsey with like Liam Neeson or whatever I think his name is?
And it was like they made him look good.
He was the hero, obviously, you know, like he was good. He was the Hollywood hero. But it was this was before I knew all this insidious stuff about Kinsey. I loved that movie. I used to rate myself on the Kinsey scale, you know, before I knew all this. But basically the Kinsey scale is that 0, you're completely heterosexual, 6, you're completely homosexual, and that the idea was like the majority of the population falls somewhere in between, not necessarily exactly in the middle, but maybe like a 5.5 or like a 2.3, you know, like it's not always so black and white. But that's yeah.
And this was the father of the sexual revolution, right?
I think so. Yeah, him and John Money.
John Money. We actually just wrote an article. We have a team of writers, and we just put up an article on our site, gaysagainstgroomers.com, on our blog about John Money. He is the godfather of gender identity and gender theory, and
he tortured some kids.
He did. He's famous for I think his name is David Reimer. David was born, I think, a hermaphrodite.
Twin boys.
Yeah, no, there were twin boys, but one of them was a hermaphrodite. No?
The botched circumcision.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, they botched the circumcision, and then he said, well, here's what we can do.
You're right.
Because gender is a social construct, we can raise him as a female and give him female hormones, and he won't know the difference.
And he was never told about this, so he was raised as a girl, and he ended up killing himself in like his 20s.
Both did.
Well, no, one died from a drug overdose, I think. But like the David, I think intentionally like... Yeah.
I'm reading about Kinsey right now, and I think he was connected to the Rockefeller Foundation. He was also a eugenicist.
John Money had these prepubescent kids simulating sex acts on each other.
Yeah.
And then David, who I believe was the being raised as a female, rejected the female identity and kept trying to do boyish things, and they kept desperately trying to force the socialization of being female. Mm-hmm. But David kept saying no, and then finally the parents were like, okay, the depression is too severe, something's wrong here, we have to tell her the truth. And then David
that whole time he still had no idea.
Immediately detransitioned and said, this was wrong, you shouldn't have done this to me, I don't feel that way. And then tried reversing the process, eventually just committed suicide.
Mm-hmm. And then later, I think his brother was just so depressed also and just so messed up from the whole thing. You know, because I don't think he had any idea either that he ended up dying shortly after. But I believe it was an overdose.
Yeah, I read that yesterday.
Yeah.
So eugenicists aren't good people.
No.
Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Well, it's an interesting debate if sexuality is a state of mind or if it's something society puts on you, like the label. What does the label even mean? Like who? Some people are attracted to some people, like that can change from day to day. Like I get so, maybe it's for money, like it can make people money. Maybe it makes calm state of mind to think like I am this, therefore I have some stability in my life.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that people always are looking for like a sense of community or just to bond with others like them. So maybe, I don't know. I feel like humans in general like putting labels on themselves and putting things into categories.
His brother did commit suicide. Both
2 years later
Brian
or something?
did kill themselves.
Oh, it wasn't drugs? It wasn't.
It was drugs. It was an
but like
intentional,
he intentionally. Okay.
He killed himself by taking a bunch of
so
drugs.
this is the guy, John Money. I mean, what you see happening now in society is like a direct mirror of his beliefs and his practices right now with like transitioning children and just making up genders on a whim. And all of that was his thing, and it's being implemented now on a mass scale.
And I think eugenics is the end game here, because when you look at a lot of these policies, when you look at a lot of these kind of social cultural changes, what does it lead to? People not having babies, people not being able to have babies, people over sexualized so they don't have families. And I think that's a key component here that I think a lot of us need to realize.
I think like population control, I think that's probably a big aspect too.
Yeah.
That's because
killing people is messy, but if you could get people to kill themselves,
not in Canada
and sterilize
anymore.
themselves, that's true.
I was just talking about the that new euthanasia, like legalized euthanasia thing, but the other day. But no, I think that the population control is probably a big thing behind it too. Excuse me.
And that's why it's being shoved down everyone's throat in the culture, in the movies, in the series, in the schools, on social media. It's all being promoted in so many sinister ways where people growing up, especially young children growing up, they're inundated with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop. To fit in, to be accepted by the herd, you have to be this. And to have mainline doctors talk about how much money they're making off of cutting off the genitalia of small children is just absolutely sickening.
It's disgusting.
Insane.
There's no word really for it. But no, because these puberty blockers, when you put a kid on puberty blockers, it's these drugs. The drug Lupron is like the most used puberty blocker for children. Huh? I
said despicable.
Yeah, no, and so it has routinely for a very long time only been used to chemically castrate sex offenders, because that's what it does. It's a chemical castration drug. So what they are doing, they're putting these prepubescent children on these drugs, which is going to sterilize them. They will not be able to have children later on, and they know this very well. I don't know. The thing is, I don't know if the parents know this. Like, how can a parent? I don't understand. Parents are part of this too, like a really big problem.
As Tim said, they show up to the parking lot of CVS and they're like, "Yeah, just put it in me."
Yeah. Like, I don't know if these doctors are not making parents aware of the side effects, the side effects, they're trying to hide the side effects. Right now, we know for sure that brain swelling and vision loss are like two of the big ones from these puberty blockers, as well as sterilization. And so I truly don't understand how any parent can be on board with this. I think a lot of parents are like trying to score woke points somehow, especially like these white liberal women. They don't know how else to get woke points.
Well, a lot of them aren't mentally stable. A lot of them are obese. A lot of them, their gut isn't working well, and their brain isn't working well. The father's missing. He's not in the home.
Yeah.
And that's just the recipe for the
Munchausen's.
Well, that's so funny. I was just going to say, we call, there's the trans parents of these little kids that want to transition their children. We call them Transhausen by proxy parents, or like Munchausen mommies. But we say Transhausen by proxy because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. They are using this. They are doing this for themselves to feel good, to say, oh, look at me. I'm the mommy in the neighborhood that has a little trans boy, my 3-year-old daughter is a boy now. Like
there are a bunch of stories about like a mom who says all 3 of my kids are all trans.
I saw that.
And it's like,
what are the odds? Come on.
It's like serious statistical anomalies.
It's crazy because like there's child abuse laws on the books already. I always say this. It's like this stuff needs to fall under that, like parents that put their children on these drugs that get them hooked up to the system, especially that take them for surgeries. I mean, right. it's you guys know Chloe Cole, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. She's so brave. Mm-hmm. I mean, what she's doing is incredible. It's saving like an untold number of kids.
Yeah, she's like the detransitioner, right?
Yeah, she's the detransitioner who was put on puberty blockers at 13 and had a double mastectomy at 15. Meanwhile, the people that oppose our organization are telling us every day this isn't happening. Mm-hmm. It's like
Jazz Jennings got genital surgery at 17.
Yes.
Before the age of 18.
Yeah. So these things are happening every day. I mean, there was a video that came out from a clinic, a hospital in California. I forget exactly where, but it was basically they were in a room and they were talking, saying how like the youngest that they've done it on is a 12-year-old girl, like a double mastectomy.
That's crazy.
I'm going to say
and these
something.
are healthy children.
And I'm gonna warn people if you got kids in the room, but I want to say something about this just as a point of fact. The purpose of what they refer to as bottom surgery for male to female transgender individuals serves one purpose, and that is to create a wound which can be used to sexually stimulate another individual. So to me, thinking about this, I was talking with another prominent trans person. A few, because there are a handful that are, relatively conservative or at least oppose this stuff. Mm-hmm. And they mention how they're not interested in what they call bottom surgery because it doesn't serve a purpose other than sexual gratification. And it's like a wound and dilation. All these things are really, really, really severe. And there are a lot of videos of these people of many trans people who are crying over the pain that they're experiencing. It's kind of sad, but like the only purpose for it is to create a hole for which a person could insert themselves into for pleasure. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, I mean, that's kind of horrifying to me, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
It's a wound.
It is a wound. And, you know, like the really horrifying thing, I mean, that's very horrifying. But even beyond that is like what they're, like, let's say a child does go on puberty blockers, a biological boy goes on puberty blockers. It stunts their growth. So they will never form a fully grown penis. Like, it will never grow past the childhood size of a penis because they are not going through
that
puberty.
happened to Jazz Jennings.
Okay, right. And so that's right.
Which caused complications,
right? Because there's not
depression.
enough skin from the penis to invert to create a vaginal canal,
right? Well, it's not a vaginal canal.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
Right.
It's a, you know, mimicking that.
It's an outpatient open wound.
Do they call it a vaginoplasty?
Yeah,
they do.
Fugazi,
but it's called like it's not called the vaginal canal.
No, not phalloplasty. That's the other one.
That's the other one. Yes. There's a word for the hole they create, and it's not.
Yeah,
vaginal canal.
but no. So with, you know, if a trans whatever, I'm so bad at keeping this stuff straight, but like if there's a biological boy that wants to be a girl and he knows very, very early on whatever, and the parents put him on puberty blockers, he will never grow to the size he needs to create that neo vagina.
I think,
and then they use fish skin. They're using cadaver skin now. They use like the colon. Yeah. It's you know, it's some Frankenstein stuff. Wild. You can't play, like, humans are not able to play God like this.
Truly transhumanist. It's not only is it transgender, we have transhumanist all at the same time. The trans agenda of becoming what we think we are not, or becoming what we think we are.
What better way to have people give up their own humanity and transition into this larger technocratic system than to, of course, get rid of their own identity? So that you know, you made the point there, and I agree with you 100%.
Well, the way I described it earlier is that you're going to be living in a pod. You're going to get a deposit of bugs into your pod to eat. You'll strap on your VR headset to go into your virtual newsroom, and you'll be sitting there. Then Godzilla will walk in and sit down. King Kong will walk in, and you'll be early to the meeting, and they'll say, well, you know, before we get the meeting started, anybody catch the game last night? And then King Kong and Godzilla are going to start arguing over, you know, who's going to be the next draft pick in virtual NBA. Then a carrot's going to walk in, sit down, and be like, everybody please calm down, let's get this meeting in order. Sales numbers are off the charts. Then a rabbit walks in, because people are just going to be like, I identify this way. This is what I am.
Yeah.
And you're going to live in this virtual reality where people are just going to be these creatures and these things.
I mean, you have kids in school now identifying as animals, right? Like, they had to put a litter box in one school.
I don't think that's true. I think that was not true.
No, there's kids that are identifying as cats.
But I think the litter box.
I think the litter box things was contested.
Yeah, I've never been able to confirm or deny it. But
Joe Rogan, I'm pretty sure, came out and said that he got hoaxed and it wasn't true, but I could be wrong.
I don't know if I heard it first from Joe Rogan.
It was a meme going around that I've never seen sourced by anything.
Fair.
Yeah. Can I ask you? I don't know if you talked about this before, but what made you want to do this? What got you into this? I don't know if you talked about it before.
No, I not on this scale, I don't think. But well, you know, I have been against kind of the direction that Pride Inc., that you know, LGBTQIA Inc. has been headed in a lot for years now. I did not agree with the over-sexualization of everything, how pride fests and parades have basically just become, you know, kink fests. Like, they just, everything has swayed so far from, like, the original message of when we were fighting for equality, like true equality, which was a worthy fight. It was a necessary fight. But things, you know, I haven't associated with the community in a very long time. And when I saw things happening to, like, the red line being crossed was going after kids. Like, I was not a fan of the pushing pride down everyone's throats, like all the corporations changing their profile pictures, whatever, during Pride Month. But then they started going after kids, and me and a bunch of my friends that are also now part of Gays Against Groomers, we would speak out against it, but there was no unified force. And I have had a platform called The Gay Who Strayed for like 6 years now, which accumulated a large following over time. And I basically was just like, you know, after seeing all of this just endless stream of these videos coming out of these drag shows for kids, and seeing the material in schools, and seeing that kids are being medicalized and transitioned, I was, it got to the point in June where I was just like, I can no longer sit by with this platform and not try and do something to stop it from the inside. So that's, you know, the name came to my head. And the next day I created the account and put a team together, and just got the ball rolling, and it exploded.
You got a lot of people now.
Yeah, we have a lot of people.
Is it a company? Is it like an incorporation or a 501c3?
It's a nonprofit. We have filed to be a C4. It takes like 6 to 9 months for that process to be approved. So yeah, like I said, we're really new. We launched in June of this past year. So we've done a lot in a short amount of time, and now we have chapters popping up all over the place. And it's great to see, and the amount of support that we have is overwhelming. I mean, we have haters out there, like we have some pretty loud, notable haters that like to call us anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ. That's always a funny one. Media Matters has written like 8 articles on gays against groomers now, and they always call us an anti-LGBTQ hate group. And it's like,
that's weird.
Yeah. Everybody in the organization is LGBT. We don't believe in the Q. We don't believe in the Q. Everybody in the organization is either LGB or T.
What Q is queer? What does it mean exactly?
Well, queer was always a slur. Us older gays, I mean, I'm not, just like not these new gays that are popping up all over the place. That was always a slur. I mean, people use that against us in a very derogatory way. And we tried to get past that, but now it's like they reclaimed it and rebranded it, and suddenly we're all just supposed to be okay with it.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.